Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Coup Coachcast with Jim Glogowski. I'm your host, Chad Birger. I'm going to be joined today by co-host Sam Dooyema, as well as Coach Glow. And in this week's episode, USF is coming off of a bye week. So it is now Auggie week. USF's going to prepare for the big key to the city matchup this week over at Kirkby Over Stadium. And so this entire episode is going to preview that and talk about some of the results from past Auggie week games. So to start off, I invited several former players to come on this week. You'll kind of see them on the screen as they come on, but Josh Angulo, John Tidwell, Tucker Stout, Eric Anderson, Brady Rose, Cody Jantzen, Brody Grantham, Jackson Wright, Joe Rodino, Parker Gregston are a few that you'll see here. And so we're going to start out by having those guys come on and talk about what the Auggie rivalry means to them.
First of all, I was from Sioux Falls. So for me, that was a pretty wild experience because I grew up there. I had lived there since I was in the 5th grade when my family moved there. And I went to school at Jefferson Elementary School, which is literally down the street, like from Augustana. And so I was like surrounded by that situation and that rivalry, even though they weren't really playing each other. Obviously, I always knew there was a little bit of tension and dislike for one another. But that was a crazy experience. I think the biggest thing was the energy that we just talked about earlier, that there was no game bigger than that. I think
schools are right across the street from each other. And that was kind of like a Super Bowl almost, where it said, hey, that's kind of the biggest game on our schedule because, there's a lot of trash talk between the two of us for a very long time. So, we were going to that motivated and prepared, and we were the underdogs, right, coming out of the NAIA era into D2. So we know we had something to prove, and, us inside of USF, we knew that, hey, we should win that game. But the outside, a lot of people are like, oh, they're coming up in the D2 now. We'll see what's going to happen. So
with Auggie week was like how close we were. I remember I would give tours on campus to incoming students, and I remember walking down and you could look down and see Auggie from down the street. And it was always just like crazy to me that could be that close, because you grow up thinking of all these crazy rivalries, Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, for me in Washington, it's Washington State, Washington with the Apple Cup. It's like those are across states, across the state. Like we're 2 blocks away. It's such a different feeling and rivalry.
Really the social media part, when our coaches specifically said stay off social media this week, and we couldn't help ourselves, and because we just had to get on Twitter and see what our fans or their student section or maybe their football players was saying. And I remember there was one, and I'm not going to name the name obviously, but there's one specific Augustana football player that was actually hurt for that game and couldn't play. He was a linebacker, and he was spouting off Twitter all week. And we're like, dude, you're not even playing and you're talking smack. I mean, it's easy to do that when you're not even stepping in the game. But that was motivation, too, just an extra little chip on her shoulder. That
college football and football in general. So that created a really good culture and atmosphere, I think, that made you feel welcome, that made you feel, where you should be at the time. Coach Stugart absolutely amped up the Augustana game, which I as well, Josh, take pride in that, and I appreciate that as well, because he would say, yeah, it's not just another game. This is a rivalry game. We need to go win this game. So it just added a little layer of pressure that I think our team could handle, which was good. I do remember him talking, he would spray water on the footballs for the linemen. He would put white noise on the speakers at practice. I hated that. But I know why he did it, because he knew those games would be loud. We need to make sure we communicate well with each other in a loud environment. So at practice, he would crank like white noise, just like almost like loud music cheering constantly. So
we had a lot of success against Auggie, and we tried to really focus on making it, a big deal and getting pumped up for that game. And I think that, the other side might have been heard in interviews saying that they just treat it like every other game. And yeah, that's fine. But I know for us, we hyped it up, and that was all Coach Stugart's MO. And I'm glad that he did it that way, because we took it seriously and it really got us going for those games. And we treated it like a big game because it was a big game, because frankly, the winner of that game usually was dealing and talking in the playoffs and maybe going into the first round, second round of the playoffs. And so the loser of that game, maybe not. So it was a big deal, not just for us rivalry wise, but also in the national playoff implication. So I appreciate
a little bit more locked in, it seemed like. But my biggest memory is just how electric the atmosphere was there. I mean, Augie's got a really nice stadium, and walking in there with all the other redshirt freshmen, place is packed out, not an empty seat in the whole stadium. It was just awesome. I would say the biggest thing was the atmosphere.
Mustache, I forgot about that. Yeah, everybody had the mustache for Augie week, and unfortunately, I can't grow much facial hair, so it kind of sucked for me. I always had a little pencil stash throughout college, and that's all I could grow. But I remember some crazy ones. People were going all out for it, and it just made it fun, right?
I mean, I think the obvious one for us is the mustaches. Everyone that could grow some facial hair, was growing it out to that point in the season, and then did some kind of mustache. I know Joe had some good mustaches. Tucker had some good mustaches. Parker tried. But I remember Joey Weirkamp, he had a mustache that was like the Batman logo around his lips. And so that one was pretty cool. But there was always kind of a heightened sense of, just down the block, that some guys were getting ready. And usually we were both, sitting with pretty good records at that time. So, knew it was a good game. There's a lot of sense of pride.
Through like my junior and senior, or I guess sophomore, junior, I was a mustache guy regardless. So I don't know if I was just preparing subconsciously year round or what the case was, but I already had my mustache. But there were some good ones. A few that stand out. Harvey had he was the sheriff. He had his handlebar mustache. That was always good. Shout out to Elijah Perrine. He had the monkey tail around. That was a real good one. Then seeing like Coach A with just the mustache always cracked me up too. But it's just, I mean, it's a fun week to be in the locker room, especially knowing how much it means.
Yeah, I would usually do the mustache. One year I did I had a little bit of extra neck fluff, so I did something with that, and it was disgusting. I never did that again.
Touched on obviously the mustaches and just the close proximity of the campuses, but there was just like a different buzz. Like you go to practice and obviously you take practice seriously, but there's just like a different feeling of the Augie practices. It's like kind of like Brody said, it's like those guys, I guess half a mile, a couple miles away from the bubble are getting ready for you. And just the fact that you could see those guys out at a Target or at the bar or something. Like it was just a different kind of buzz.
So the first game in the rivalry, the Division II era rivalry against Augustana, took place in 2012, October 2012. USF came out on top 32-31 in a double overtime victory. I still contest potentially the greatest game ever played. It was at Kirkby Over Stadium in front of over 7,000 fans. The official attendance was 7,120. There were more people in there than that. It was absolutely just a packed environment. And for the game, USF got off to a quick start, 14-0 lead after Christian Porter and Taylor Perkins touchdown runs. Auggie got a safety, and then their tight end caught a 14-yard touchdown pass. Braden Wieking kicked a field goal in the third quarter, and then C.J. Ham and Drew scored a touchdown run, and Drew Behrens kicked a field goal. In the fourth quarter, Jordan Taylor had a 12-yard touchdown run, and then Auggie was able to tie it up with 30 seconds left at 25-25. In the first overtime, USF threw an interception, and then it came down to an Augustana field goal attempt from 42 yards, and Mike Tolkamp blocked it. Then in the second overtime, Augustana scored, and once again, Mike Tolkamp blocked the extra point. And that was actually the Cougars' third block kick that game, so a really big part of the game that day. And then Carrington Hanna scored in the second overtime for USF, a 9-yard touchdown pass from Taylor Perkins, and Braden Wieking's kick was good. To talk about that, we have some of the players who played in that game. Here they are.
Be honest, because all the guys that played before us, you were so nervous because you didn't want to lose that game. Because I remember playing like Dom Zadinsky and Dan Schmeichel and all those older guys that wanted to play Auggie so bad. So you just knew you had to win that game. Otherwise, you let those guys down too. And we always talked about that at USF. As you
think when we got to it, I think Auggie week, I think we showed up to practice, and there was a cougar hanging from one of our goalposts, and from that point on, it was always one of those things. And prior to the week leading up to it, that we always wanted to play. We always wanted to be a part of that rivalry and bring that back from however long it was before when the two teams matched.
Yeah, that was an adrenaline rush, right? And even prior, or kind of leading fourth quarter and then going to overtime, I just remember thinking like, we got this, right? We don't have anything to lose, and just put it all out there. And I was young, so I was a redshirt freshman playing that game. And I vividly remember till this day one of the plays in overtime, or right before overtime, where Trey Hyde was scrambling around in the back for a very long time. And I was the DB covering one of the wide receivers. And then that wide receiver just sprinted toward the corner of the end zone. And that's when Trey Hyde chucked it up into the end zone. And I remember just seeing the ball coming down. I was trailing a little bit. And then as that ball was coming down, I was able to pop it out last second. And for me, I was like, oh my goodness, like it was a huge play for me in the game.
That big lead or whatever beginning the game, and you never feel like you were out of it or going to lose it, of course. We get to overtime, maybe the nerves kicked in a little bit, I suppose, but we had it in my mind, like there's no way we're losing that game.
And that's kind of what we experienced. We were up 14-0, off to a great start. Going into overtime, I think all the guys we almost settled down more and just kind of knew the jobs that had to get done. And at the same time, like I was probably the biggest cheerleader on the sideline, not having to play, whether it's 10 plays on a drive, whatever it might be. But so that was part of my job. And at the same time, no one ever talked to me because they knew they shouldn't talk to me.
I mean, he's an amazing dude, amazing kicker, punter, right, all around. And we all had no doubts, no fears, no anything, right? We kind of knew we won it when Braden was going out there to kick that last field goal. So in all of our minds, we're like, well, we did it, right?
I knew, it sounds bad, but I knew going into it I was going to make the kick. It was basically what was going through my mind at that point was where I was going to run to after I kicked the ball.
But yeah, and that when as soon as that ball was snapped, our hands are already up in the air and everyone's running after that key. So really good feeling.
Complete madness and blissfulness and happiness. I mean, I think it's important for people that don't know this, like those guys, all those guys, it just brings a smile to my face to see those names on that box score, to see those guys. They had been going to school in Sioux Falls for at least 3 years, most of them, playing in the NAIA, having that tweener year, and every single year hearing from the other school across town that they were still not better than them. And so for them to get that matchup and to see those guys win into what Brady said earlier, I mean, you could see the emotion in those guys' faces from the start of that game until the end of it.
What a win. All right. 2013 game, October 26, 2013. Augustana comes to Bob Young Field, and USF hosts this one in front of about 5,000 fans. USF gets off to a 6-0 lead at halftime and ends up closing out the game 27-10 under the lights at Bob Young Field. Scoring summary, Bradley Hatfield kicked a couple field goals right away to get USF off to that 6-0 lead. And then Nephi Garcia closed it out in the second half with 3 touchdown runs to seal the deal for the Cougars. Here's a recap from some of the players from that game.
Specifically, because I actually changed positions a little bit, and I went to safety, kind of covering one of their slot receivers they had. It was their dude that year. So I went down to safety a little bit, strong safety, and kind of followed him around a bit. And specifically from that year, right, we kind of had a little bit of changes from coaching staff. So defensively, we were doing some different things. And, it was a battle, right? Like you said, and freaking Nephi, he saved us. That dude was a baller. And from that game, I just remember it, kind of sluggish game where it wasn't a lot of energy. And I think it kind of played in part where, hey, the fans, it wasn't as big of a fan base that game. But no matter what, anytime we play Auggie, I think it's always, you know, a close game. And
For me, I don't know about Brady, but for me, I remember that whole season, you know, going off of coming from the 2012 game, we won. I was thinking to myself, like, let's freaking go. You know, I probably used a different word at that time, but I was so pumped up to be able to be in that game as a freshman, just contributing in any way possible. I remember I had a couple, like you said, I had a couple of catches in that game, but just honestly, a lot of my time during that game was spent blocking for guys like Brady. And I smile seeing Nephi's name on there. Man, that dude was a baller. So we were so lucky to have him on our team. And
Tackle by any means. I was just happy to be on the field, to be honest with you, just to contribute. We had I thought, a very high-powered offense, and Josh probably can attest to that. We had very good talent all around. I was probably just praying Nephi didn't get hurt because I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's a stud. I can't do what he can do. I run a little differently. I'm not as fast. I'm not as agile. So please, Nephi, don't get hurt. But yeah, I think we're in that mindset coming off a redshirt freshman year. Like, you're still pretty young, right? You're trying to learn the offense. You're trying to get comfortable. You're trying to just not screw up because you got a lot of eyes on you. You need to contribute and play a role. And I think for Josh and I, it was just, hey, do the best of our abilities, play, do our role, play as hard as we can, because we knew at some point that was going to change to be our team over time. When I say our team, I mean, when we get to sophomore, junior, senior time frame where we're going to be playing a lot more potentially. So just to contribute, just to be out on the field, it was fun to, again, you come out of high school, you're touching the ball all the time on the offensive side. Then you go sit for a redshirt freshman year, you're not playing at all. So it's just fun to get back out on the field.
Played a part, right? Meaning there's a lot of younger guys and they haven't played in those type of games or had much experience at all, right? So it was a way to get them molded into saying, hey, these are the type of games that we're going to be playing in, and especially with Auggie, getting that experience. And it was a big shift, right, from that 2012 to 2013 year and the different personnel that we had. We had, some seasoned vets on that 2012. We transitioned over. It's like, hey, new guys need to step up. Right, like you mentioned, John Batnich came in, stepped up for us, and it was just a way for us to say, "Hey, you guys are going to be the guys, right? We are going to be the guys that continue this thing." So being able to get them a lot of that experience, I think, helped. Again, you saw the game, and it was a little bit weird, and I think it had to do with a lot of younger guys and some of those different things.
The following year, October 11th, 2014, University of Sioux Falls goes back over to Kirkby-Over Stadium and plays Augustana. This one, Augustana got out to a 3-0 lead. Then USF put 17 up in the second quarter and was able to hold it out 23-12 at the end of the game. Scoring summary, as we mentioned, Lucas Wainman had that 29-yard field goal to start off things, but then Brady Rose caught a 30-yard touchdown pass. Nephi Garcia had a 45-yard touchdown run. Hatfield had a 26-yard field goal, another field goal later on, and then a third field goal for Hatfield in the fourth quarter to seal the deal, 23-12 for the Cougars. Here's a recap from some of the players in that 2014 game.
Okay, sorry. Shoot, I remember being freaking, again, jacked up to be able to play at Augustana Stadium. Brady alluded to it earlier, but I mean, we all recognize that stadium is pretty awesome. So it's really cool to be in there. It's a great setting. And also, like the USF fans, they traveled to that game and they made it, amazing. I remember finally being able to be in that arena where we witnessed the 2012 game and just feeling like almost euphoric about being in that stadium and hopefully trying to, uphold that standard that those guys had set. And
always traveled well, which was good. So no, like Josh alluded to, I think that's where we started coming to our own. We were in that age range of sophomores. So we were playing a lot of reps, which was fun. We were starting to get hang of the offense. We felt like we were pretty big contributors at that point. But it's really cool to see those box scores and see all those names. And just reminds me of how much talent we had, not only on the defense, but on the offensive side. When you see like Max Mickey, Garrett Shutt, Josh, Eric, Nephi, all these people, Luke. Luke was a stud. We all know that. Look at the numbers. So
grew up in the program with, right? So playing Cam, Solomon, all those guys, same class. And I was just excited to be able to play with those dudes because I knew what they were going to be. They were behind some great linebackers, right? So it's hard for them to get in the mix. So having them alongside was awesome. And at this year, we had, Coach Jackson took over the defense, and we were pumped, right? We had, a whole new system, and we had just a different swag about us that year, and we knew it. So it was just a freaking fun year for sure. I remember.
The 2015 season, University of Sioux Falls hosted Augustana on October 24th, and this was at Bob Young Field, and it was Augustana's first win in the rivalry. Augustana kind of came out on top in the second half with scoring 28 points, a couple CJ Ham touchdowns in that game. You can see the box score if you're watching on YouTube. Brady Rose did kick off the scoring for USF with an 11-yard pass from Luke Papillion. Max Mickey scored on a 6-yard touchdown run, but then CJ Ham and Trey Hyde took over a little bit. The USF offense kind of sputtered from that point. Solomon St. Pierre had a 24-yard interception return, and Drew Jackson had a 21-yard interception return to keep the Cougars in the game, but the Augustana offense was a little bit too much at the end. Here's a recap from some of the players in that game.
That one still hurts, right? That's the first loss we had to Auggie. And, it kind of was, right? Don't like to put there's no blame, right? We're a team, but, offense, they were struggling a bit early on that game. So as defense, we got a little frustrated. But then the tables flipped where we couldn't do our job, right? Stopping the run, that's one of the things we always focus on, right? We have to do that first before we can do anything else. And CJ Ham, great player, right? He's a dude, but he was just dicing us. And it's like we couldn't stop it. But from that game, I just remember that it just felt like we were off a little bit, and we felt like we were going to win the game a little bit. Then when it came down to it, we just couldn't get it done. And all respect to Auggie, they did it, right? They beat us, but that one hurt. It's hard to get over losing.
Yeah, still hurts. Still hurts. I'm not gonna BS you, man. That still hurts. I still think about that. I had 2 opportunities to catch touchdowns in that game on contested balls. I know the exact play call, the exact spot on the field. I didn't come down with both of those opportunities, and should have. And so still hurts, man. Still, that one still hurts. I'm not going to BS. They had a great team. Obviously, CJ is playing for the Vikings right now. He's an incredible guy. He's an awesome guy and a really great player. But yeah, I mean, you don't forget those. You don't forget that one hurt. To lose on the Bob in general was something that we didn't do very often. I don't know what our record was while we were there, but I know we didn't lose that much on the Bob. And then to drop one to Auggie, yeah, that hurt. So
on the Bob was phenomenal. So that's where it probably hurt the worst. For me, it was like, oh shoot, like we were very prideful that we didn't lose at home. And to lose at home to Auggie, that one did sting. That probably reset us a little bit. Maybe we got a little too comfy. I don't know. Maybe I'll speak for myself. Maybe we got a little too comfortable. And that maybe probably put the chip back on our shoulder a little bit, going, oh, okay, we got punched in the mouth a little bit there. And I think all of us on the offense could have came through with a few more plays, not just Josh. He's an amazing athlete, so he doesn't have to put that on his shoulders.
Yeah, still hurts. Still.
All right. The next season, 2016, USF played Augustana October 1st, a little bit earlier than the previous seasons, and came out on top 35-20. This one was at Kirkby Over Stadium. You can see the scoring summary if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. USF got off to an early 14-0 lead and then scored a touchdown in each of the subsequent quarters to finish with that 35-20 win. Luke Papillion scored on a 3-yard touchdown run. Kyle Gronewig caught a 56-yard pass from Luke. And then Max Mickey got an 18-yard touchdown run. After a couple Auggie scores, Josh Angulo, who's featured on this segment here, caught a 16-yard touchdown pass from Luke Papillion, and Max Mickey scored on a 42-yard touchdown run. And then Auggie did score 1 touchdown late to pull it to within 2 scores, but that was the summary. Here's a recap from the players of the 2016 game.
Definitely wanted to make up for what we kind of messed up, what we felt we messed up the year before. I mean, totally. So we definitely all had that that game in our mind for a long time. You know, it's tough when you lose to the team that's literally 3 blocks away. You go to a basketball game and they're bringing in the key to the game. They're posting stuff on Instagram and Twitter and yada, yada. I mean, we heard it for basically an entire year, from them for losing. And so we were really, really motivated. We wanted to dominate that game and try to win. And that I remember that was the buildup to the game, was like we were dying to play that. We could not wait to play those guys again. We wanted to try to make up for the year previous. And I think the other thing about like the in-game, my favorite in-game memories are that I think it was 56-yard touchdown that Luke threw to Kyle was like a tunnel screen of some kind. And I just remember throwing a block on that. That was one of my favorite plays. Kyle made like 3 guys miss. And then on Max Mickey's, I think 18-yard touchdown, another like fun block, one of my favorites of my career. And just watching those guys score was awesome.
Because we were such a senior dominant team, we all kind of knew that this was kind of our last time to shine a little bit, especially in this game. And I'll tell you, when you start getting to that junior year and that senior year, you start to realize, hey, your games are becoming limited in your career a little bit. So it's really tough to focus when you know you have Auggie coming up, let's say week 6, week 7, week 5, whatever it may be. It becomes tough to focus on those games between 1 and 4. Like you're just like, okay, let's go win this one. Let's get to the next one. Let's go win this one, get to the next one. Because you just cannot wait to get to kind of almost right your wrong from last year. Because that's all you think about when, like Josh mentioned, you get to see that key at a basketball game or volleyball game or whatever it may be. There's a part of me that thinks maybe they didn't know how to win because they were toting it around so much. We had it for so long. We were just like, yeah, we got the key. It was so normal for us to have it in our locker room. But I think it was an opportunity for us to right or wrong, fix our mistakes that we made the year prior. I think we were a better football team potentially overall because we were a little older. We had a very, like I said, dominant senior team. Not saying we had some amazing freshmen, sophomores, juniors as well. But we just that team we had in 2016, we were together for, 4 or 5 years there, and it was kind of our time to hit our stride.
So in 2017, the following year, USF had a change in coaching staff as well as losing a bunch of those seniors the guys had talked about. USF still came out on top 21-14 in this game. This was a strange scoring game, and we'll talk about that here in the scoring summary, but USF put up 7 points in the first quarter, 6 in the second quarter, and then 8 in the fourth quarter to seal the deal. The scoring summary is as follows. Jason Towns scored on a 49-yard touchdown run. Stu Vanden Heuvel kicked the extra point. Then Stu had 4 field goals for USF. 18-yarder in the second quarter, another 26-yarder in the second quarter, and then the 2 in the fourth quarter, 43 yards and 20 yards. And then Dennis Gardick closed things out with a safety. So let's hear from some of the guys that played in the 2017 game.
17 game is kind of a blur, but Jason Towns was fun to watch that year as well. We had Max Mickey, Jason Towns that year. It was, again, just more guys that it was incredible to watch them work and watch them play on a daily basis.
Special teams battle. A lot of us were on a lot of teams that year, quarter 4. For whatever reason, that game, the punt team sticks out to me. We punted quite a bit more than we'd like to, but it was a special teams battle.
I just remember Stu being a dog kicker, which was shocking because he was just a punter for the whole time in 2016. We're there, 2015. And then he goes out there, and I'm pretty sure he didn't miss a PAT the entire season. Or I don't even know if he missed a field goal. Like, he was so lights out. But Parker and Joe had spent more time with Stu, so I'll let them speak on it more. But it was just incredible to see a guy go out there. But, specialists at practice should just be kicking the entire time. So it's good to see that all that time at practice paid off where they're just kicking, or just throwing the ball into a garbage can from 30 yards out to see who could be the best at it. But Stu was awesome. It was incredible to see that year. He held it down for us on special teams all across the board. So it was amazing.
So the following season in 2018, University of Sioux Falls goes back over to Kirkby Stadium. And this one, USF got off to a huge lead, 17-0 in the first quarter, scored 20 more in the second quarter, and then 14 in the fourth quarter to seal the deal. 51-13 win for the Cougars over Augustana. Scoring summary, Mason Laramie started the Cougars off with a 37-yard field goal. Then Gabe Watson scored on a 33-yard touchdown run, a 19-yard touchdown run, a 33-yard touchdown run, and a 1-yard touchdown run all in the first half. Parker Gregston also had a 75-yard interception in the first half. And then in the second half, Caden Walters scored on an 8-yard touchdown run, and Colton Miles had a 58-yard touchdown run as well. The Cougars had 2 150-ish yard rushers that game, Colton Miles and Gabe Watson both had those stats. And so here's some memories from the players who played in that game.
It being like built up to us, be like, hey, we're going to have a big crowd. It's going to be an awesome environment. But then still showing up and getting onto the field, it was still like, oh, like still such an eye-opening experience of how many people are there, how many people are so invested in the game. And and that was really our first, actually probably my second like big environment we played in. In 18, we played at Winona, and it was a really good game right down to the wire. Winona is a really cool environment as well. But then Auggie just took it to another level. I mean, like you said, over 6,000 people is the largest crowd I had ever put on pads in front of to that point. So it was, like I said, a little eye-opening. I'm kind of happy I didn't have to play significant snaps. I got to just kind of watch the guys do their thing. So
it was like, you always are going and expecting just to handle the game, but it was just a beat down from the get-go. And I just remember like that game was like the easiest game of football I've ever played because everyone was so in tune with each other. We knew what we wanted to do. I think, was that the fourth or fifth game of the season that year. And we kind of had all like played that first season together, and we were really understanding the defense. The offense was clicking. And, it was like every time you turned around, the offense had a 20-yard, rush or, had a huge touchdown play. I mean, I think there was like, I think Mike Maxwell and Nate Johnson had big games even at like receiving that game too. I know Gabe obviously had 4 touchdowns and 100 and whatever yards, but everyone was making plays. It was just like, on offense, defense, everything. And then at the end of the game, kind of like what Parker was saying, I remember Gio had a big like pass breakup at the end of that game, and he was, a running back converted safety. That was
wonderful time playing in that game. So, but it was fun. I remember seeing P get that pick, and that was icing on the cake for us. And like Gabe, just that 4th and 1, he took one to the house. It was an unreal game. It was awesome to just go smoke Auggie at their place for sure.
Like the pick 6 is cool. Those plays happen so fast, and it's just like stuff you practice. Like we practiced that route combination probably 10 plus times during practice, and those plays happen so fast. And the main thing that I remember from that game actually was the very last play. So we had Noah St. Pierre had like cramps, and then we put in another corner, but like I still had to play, even though, I mean, to go all the way back, our offensive like quote saying was all gas, no break all year long. And I think the scoreboard says exactly what their identity was. And second of all, they were trying to score at the very end because it was like 51 to whatever they had. And I remember I was on the field and they're on the 1-yard line. We have all of our backups in and we stuffed them on the goal line. And it just comes down to those little plays where you're just like, that's another reason you don't go to Auggie. They're trying to do that, and then you still stop them at USF on your own 1-yard line as a goal line stand as the clock expires and hits 0. That was the biggest play that I remember from that game.
So then the 2019 season rolls around. The Cougars play back over at USF, and Augustana comes out on top of this one 20-13. It was kind of a interesting game. The USF defense held Augustana to 139 total yards and still was unable to come out with the victory. The scoring summary, you can see Jared Epperson scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. Caden Walters had a 2-yard touchdown run for USF, and then kind of went back and forth here in the second and third quarter. Field goal for Augustana through a Reisdorfer caught a 25-yard touchdown pass from Caden Walters. And then Auggie was able to close things out with a Zach Masoli 2-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. And that was the final score of 20-13. Here's some memories from that 2019 team.
There were so many weird things. I'm not going to make excuses for anything. Auggie won the game, is what it is. There were just so many weird things in that game where we'd look at each other and be like, is this like actually happening? Like, I think we had like opening kickoff went off of our kick returner's helmet, and they started with the ball on like our 3-yard line. And it was just one of those games where like all of the breaks didn't seem to go our way. I know defensively, statistically, I think we had a really good game. I don't remember I think we gave up like
156, I'm pretty sure.
140 total yards or something in that realm. But that's football. That's football sometimes.
I do remember it was a defensive battle. We definitely put our best foot forward. If I remember correct, there was one of the pivotal moments of the game was there was a long snap that got a little bit away from Thomas Chapin. I think it went over his head or something like that. Wasn't me. I did some long snap in that year, but I was having issues with my shoulder. But I think they got the ball in like the 4-yard line or something like that. And it kind of sucked the wind out of our sails a little bit.
With the way it played out, like we've kind of already talked about that. And, that's just sometimes how it goes. We can talk about how it shouldn't have went that way, but, it's football, it's a game. But, we always also took pride in winning on the Bob. And so that's just like, it's like, oh, you lost to Auggie. And then it's like, oh, and you did it on the Bob. Like, it's just like an extra sting because there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of tradition in that field. And, coming from that lineage of guys when, we showed up in, 2015, Luke and Brady and Terry and, all those guys that were there, even like we got to play a little bit with J-Bub, but those guys too, like, we were always trying to play not just for, USF, but we're also like trying to make those guys proud, It
was a struggle of a game for us offensively. I mean, our defense was incredible. They were shutting them down at every turn, and we were putting them in some horrible positions with turnovers and not capitalizing on some field position. So it was fun to watch the defense play, but not fun to be a part of the offense.
So Augustana got to keep the key for the 2020 season as well because there was no football played that year. In the 2021 game, it was played October 2nd, 2021, and at Bob Young Field again. Large attendance, almost 6,000 people at the Bob that day, and USF came out on top 28-26. Scoring summary, Hunter Schneider scored on a 17-yard touchdown pass from Adam Mullen. Nick Hernandez kicked the extra point. Jock Lockett scored on a 6-yard touchdown pass from Adam Mullen. Another Hernandez PAT. Jock scored on a 2-yard touchdown run, and Dom Pegley scored on a 26-yard touchdown pass. USF took a safety at the end to kind of get a little punting position there, but the final, as we mentioned, was 28-26. And so let's hear from some of the players in the 2021 game.
One game was, like I said, extra magnified because, not getting to play for 2 years, it builds and builds. Even for those guys, I know they were, they had the key from us, but I know they were ready to get after us after 2 years of not. So, just the magnitude of that game coming in was so much fun, and the atmosphere was incredible. One of the biggest crowds we ever had for one of our games at Bob Young Field, which was so cool. And getting to play with guys, like Gio and some of the other guys on the offensive line, like Brendan Moran and Jasper Parks, Sebastian Perez, Zach Lyons that year. Our line was really a close-knit group with Coach Mace, and we were paving the way for Thurl Reisdorfer, our guy back there. He had a good game himself, and then we were, I think in that season we were going to do pretty much whatever it took to win that game. We were
up. I'm pretty sure it was, at the end of the game when you win it, someone's trying to be first to the key. I think it was Dorian Federick, and just the whole team running out there celebrating. And this year really being a year that I contributed, it just felt super special. It was an awesome moment.
Our receiving core was incredible that year, and I think Adam can attest that he was just like, yeah, I just got to distribute, get the ball to these athletes, these playmakers out in space, and we were able to do that. I mean, Dom and Ty were studs for us; they were incredible, and then a young Carter Slykehouse making an impact, kind of starting to pave his way into the receiver that he would become today, leading the Cougars here in 2024 still. And I mean, it's fun to watch those guys play, and it's fun to you're pass protecting up there with the line and making sure Mullen's okay back there, and then he can throw it out there and let those guys do their thing. It's so much fun to watch them breaking tackles and making catches. And I remember Ty Smith making a catch on our sideline, completely mossing one of their guys. It was like a 3rd and long. We needed it for to keep our possession going, and he went and got it. And it was, just watching those guys work and go after the ball, and they grinding every day in practice and working on their craft just like all the rest of us. And it's always fun to see those guys bring it together, and especially Jock Lockett bringing it together, scoring touchdowns that game. It's in a rivalry game, it's going to come down to who wants it more, and who's going to make plays when it's needed. And sometimes it might be the guy you expect, and sometimes it might not be. So it's always fun to see who's going to step up and see the plays they make.
The 2022 game happened on October 1st, 2022. This one was at Kirkaby Over Stadium. USF won 31-24. Cougars got off to a fast start, and at one point were ahead pretty handily. I think it was 24-7, maybe 31-10, something like that. And had a great day. Augustana made a comeback attempt at the end, but it fell short, and the Cougars came out victorious 31-24. Ethan Wittenberg scored on a 16-yard touchdown pass from Adam Mullen. Nick Hernandez's kick was good. Thurl Reisdorfer scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. Hernandez had that 23-yard field goal. Landon Freeman got a 6-yard touchdown pass from Mullen. Thurl Reisdorfer had a 58-yard touchdown run with 10 minutes left to go in the game. Like I said, putting the Cougars up 31-10. And then Augustana scored a couple touchdowns late to bring the score back. And so let's hear a little bit from the players from the 2022 game.
Yeah, I mean, Durfee's a freak. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's still doing that over at Washington in the Big Ten. But, yeah, that was going back there. It was a little different being in that starting lineup opposed to, coming to the game in a jersey on the sideline. But, I mean, I mentioned it before. The atmosphere is awesome. They got a beautiful stadium. That's one thing I will give them. But, yeah, being out there, I do remember getting a little nervous because I don't know what the score was going into the fourth, but they started to make a little push, and everyone had to calm their jets a little bit and kind of refocus and say, this game is not over.
Confident into the fourth quarter. I think Thurl, we broke off a long run for Thurl at some point in the second half, and that was kind of like, oh, yeah, we were kind of feeling okay. And then they started chipping away, and we had a couple struggling possessions on offense. So I think there was a little bit of a, hey, if we don't close this out, they could come back and get us. But I think there was a general consensus of, yeah, we're going to pull this out. We were ready to win that game
that year. But shoot, I remember they were driving down with when they were down to 6 points with 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left, and it was I think I had the PBU on fourth down. I should have picked it, but my hands were sweaty or something. I don't know, but that's another memory from a football game I'll never forget. Just knocking down the pass and then celebrating with all the boys. It was electric in there. I saw Brendan Moran run all season. I don't even know if the game was officially over yet. He was hauling down there getting that key, but credit to him. He must have been thinking about it beforehand. I remember I was so exhausted that game. I was puking on the sidelines. It was hot as all can be, still trying to play every single play. So I think I was sitting next to someone on the bench just taking it all in. It was I didn't have that speed, that Brendan Moran speed in me at that point.
USF defensive end Zach Durfee had 3 tackles for loss and 3 sacks that game. That was what Cody Jantzen was referencing there. Finally, the 2023 game, Augustana won 49-29. We did a Coup Coach cast on that last season, so if you're interested in recapping that game, you can go back and watch us from last season. So next, now that we've recapped all those games, we're going to jump in and we're going to honor our sponsor here real quickly. So attention, USF Cougar fans. There's a new favorite spot for wings in Sioux Falls. Atomic Wings is open at 1502 East 69th Street in Sioux Falls, just north of the USF Stadium. Atomic Wings offers customers fresh, never frozen, natural and hormone-free chicken wings, hand-tossed in 14 proprietary sauces, a classic menu, a welcome dining experience, and a commitment to quality. You can watch sports and enjoy wings or a cold one at the self-serve beer station. The menu includes traditional wings, boneless wings, chicken tenders, sandwiches, flatbreads, and salads. Also choose from waffle fries, onion rings, mac and cheese, jalapeno poppers, mozzarella sticks, tater tots, or sweet potato fries as a side. And don't forget the dessert. Deep fried Oreos is an option you can't get everywhere. There's something for everyone in the entire family at Atomic Wings. You can order online at atomicwings.com or come in. It's located on 69th Street, just north of the USF football stadium. Perfect for pregame tailgates or postgame celebrations with friends and family. Well, let's go ahead and bring in Sam and Coach now. You guys, sorry I made you sit through that long recap video for what's happening, but just wondering kind of your thoughts on, it's Auggie week here, Coach. Make sure you unmute your mic, but it's Auggie week. What kind of things are you looking forward to this week?
Well, I really, first of all, you did an awesome job. Really appreciate all those guys taking the time to put their 2 cents in. And for somebody like me who was aware of the rivalry, but not intimately aware like I am now, it really gives you some insight into some of those guys. I coach against some of those players, and the guys they're talking about, I can verify those guys were really good football players, and they had some really good teams here. And both sides, Auggie and Sioux Falls, obviously playing against those guys. So for me, I got into the league in 2016, and fortunately or unfortunately got to witness firsthand guys like Trey Hyde and Luke Papillion. And so the Max Mickeys of the world, never played against or coached against CJ Ham, but he was obviously a heck of a player. Yeah, so that made it, I can connect with it. I understand it, know the kind of level of football that was being played, and just really, really fortunate to be a part of that, and really excited that, just in our second year since I've been here, we've got ourselves into a position where, it should be a heck of a football game. A lot of people interested, a lot of people excited about it. And I was following along pretty closely, but I think this is the latest the game's been played since the rivalry started back up back in 12. So, I've got a picture on my wall of that. There's a goal line snap where USF has the football, and we've got that on our walls. The mustache tradition is still going strong. The kids and the coaches get involved with that, so that's pretty cool. And the key to the city, man, it's just, I think one of the guys said it. Growing up when I was a kid, it was Oklahoma, Nebraska. I remember the Iowa State rivalry that's being played. That's maybe one that's in state. South Dakota State, for the folks around here. But it's very rare that you have one blocks away. And, somebody asked me if it means more. Yeah, it means more. It does mean more. I mean, they're right down the street, right? And our kids literally live in the same neighborhood. And in games that you win or lose, you don't necessarily see the guy the next morning, because you're going out to get your newspaper at the front drive. So, yeah, it means more. It is a big deal. It is a big game. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. It is. I'm super excited that it means as much as it's going to mean this Saturday, but it means that much every time you play, whether the records are 2-7 or 7-2. You want to beat your rival, and make no mistake about it. They're our rival. I don't know if they see us that way. I don't really care. All I care about is our kids being prepared and ready to go and go down the street and get after it at Kirkby Overby Stadium on Saturday.
So I want to talk to Sam here in a little bit, but pull up the NSIC standings. Augustana is in first place in the conference. They have a 7-1 record in conference. Minnesota State, Mankato, and Sioux Falls are second right now at 6-2. And, all three of those teams have 7-2 overall records, Coach. Coming into the game, I was trying to go through that as quickly as I could, but this is one of the games where the teams, this is coming down to the end of the season, like you said, and it's kind of playing for a conference championship at this point.
All the chips are in, man. All the chips are in. I'm not one of these guys that's going to sit in front of the team and say, guys, this is another Saturday. Do we have to do the things that we've done week in and week out? And yes, does that change? No. But I would be lying to our players face to face if I told them this is just another game. When they walk out of that locker room, they go down those stairs and they enter that stadium, it will feel different. It will be different. The eyes will be more. The tailgate will be more intense. They'll know the guys on the other sideline. They saw the guys at Hy-Vee, at Target, at Walmart, Atomic Wings per se. This is not just an everyday opportunity, and embrace it. It's awesome. Is that going to matter when the ball's kicked off? No, you got to focus on taking on blocks, tackling people, doing your job, all the stuff that we've done since August or spring ball. But to sit here and say, looking across that field, looking across those guys on their sideline, looking at their stadium, looking at the environment, it's going to be different. It's going to be different, and it's going to be exciting, and let's embrace it. Let's not shy away from that. As the saying goes, you want all that smoke, and that's what you came here for. You came here to play in these games in November with the stakes what they are. I'm glad that they won on Saturday. I'm glad that they're 7-2. I'm glad we're 7-2. And right now, all eyes in the Northern Sun Conference are going to be on this game. And that's what you want as a competitor, as a coach. Who wants to play in a game where nobody cares, right? We were there last year. A year ago, we played at Southwest, the last game of the season. I don't know. I could have counted how many people were there on two hands, maybe. Like, nobody cared. I want to be in games where people care, and I'm excited about it. And I'm thankful for our players for putting us in position. And let's go have some fun.
Sam, we haven't heard from you yet. I want to talk to you real quick before we get started. Sam, you actually played in a couple of those first couple matchups, the 2012 and 2013 games. Tell us just quickly a few of your memories of those games and what this rivalry means to you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, I don't want to like berate the point, I think it's unique. And I think the rivalry has evolved over time. This rivalry was really fueled from our NAIA success. And Auggie was a mid-tier NCC team for years. And we became an NAIA powerhouse. And there was a lot of jawing and talk, but we never played. And even historically, when they played in the 80s or something, nobody really cared. I think Matt Zimmer looked back at that game one time, and it was just the schools were different. The levels of competition were different. And then as USF began its ascent under Coach Young and then Coach DeBoer, and we were winning titles, it became we're pretty good. And Augie's like, yeah, but we're in the NCC and we play SDSU. And so that fueled a lot of the early, I think, rivalry. And I don't think that's ever going to go away, because there's still a lot of that. Well, you guys are USF. You're smaller. You don't have as much money. That's why our fans don't like to come to Bob Young Field. That never goes away. But it's taken on a life of its own. And I think seeing that evolution, seeing that history has been fun to watch. And at the end of the day, it's still a rivalry. My brother went to Augustana. He was an athlete there. He was a trainer for them. And so Chad and I used to work together at Sanford Research. Guess what? There was a lot of Auggie grads we worked with. And so that's not going to go away when you have a lot of grads in the same city. You see those people out at the same restaurants, at the store. That's what makes this, I think, really unique. And then you add in that chip on the shoulder mentality for USF. I was recruited by both of them. So for me, I get it too. Auggie told me, you're not good enough to get any money from us. You got some academic money, so that's all right. So I'm like, okay, cool. You don't think I'm a good enough football player? I'll go win a title at USF, and then we get to play on your field and beat you twice. So that was fun for me. And I think that's why, that chip on the shoulder mentality fueled me. I think it still does. But it's fun to see it take a life on its own. Like I said, I get to give grief to my brother. He'll always say, I ran track. I don't care about the football team. And I'm always like, or if Auggie finally wins, he talks smack. And I said, well, I'm 2-0 against Auggie. I've never lost. So, I mean, that's what makes college football fun. That's why we love it. And I'm excited for this week. It's a ton of fun, and it's a special game. And Coach is right. Latest game of the season. I think there's only been maybe one other ranked matchup in this series. Definitely not as many stakes as high having it this late. And I mean, there's nothing better. And I love how the Coup fans travel for this one. Auggie doesn't always reciprocate that, but that's what I think makes this unique too. You almost get that high school atmosphere in the sense that you get a true visitor side, you get a true home side, because it's this side versus this side, and it'll be fun. So looking forward to Saturday.
Well, if you've never been to Kirkby Over Stadium, they also have those berms on the end, and that's where a lot of the former players end up standing the whole time. It's always a very interesting environment. But Game 10 coming up here, USF at Augustana, Saturday, November 9th. It'll be at Kirkby Over Stadium. Tickets are a little spendy, but, do what you can do to get into the game. It's going to be kickoff at 1:00 p.m. I'm sure the tailgating will be rolling nice and early. I've already talked to several former players that are going to be there. I could tell tailgate stories for probably 20 minutes here, Coach, from the USF Auggie game. But you can watch on the NSIC network if you're not able to attend. If you are able to attend, wear your purple, get out there, cheer on the Cougars, right? But you can also listen on KWSN 98.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. or KWSN.com. I think I have 11:30. It's 12:30. Sorry, 12:30 pregame show. My proofreader didn't catch that one. 12:30 pregame show, half hour with Tom Frederick, Tim Hyatt, and myself. As far as the game itself, Augustana is coming in with a 7-2 record, like we mentioned, 7-1 in the NSIC. Their two losses this year are a 24-3 loss at South Dakota State University, and then a 43-41 shootout loss up at Moorhead. The rest of the games they've won. You can look through the slide here or go to their website and check out their schedule. Head coach Gerald Olszewski is in his 12th season as the coach. He has an overall head coaching record of 113-61, and he's 81-43 at Augustana. Coach, I'm sure you get to know Coach OJ really well. What are your thoughts about playing against Augustana?
Well, it's so I've known Coach for a long time. He actually was the head football coach at St. Olaf when I was at Simpson, and so we actually played each other twice when I was the head coach there and he was the head coach there, and so in our Division III days, and then he got the job at Auggie, and then I trickled up to Mankato, and so we've competed against each other a lot. Kelly Skolton, Chase, a lot of those guys and their staff, Coach Sipple. You see these guys all summer. You see them in the recruiting prospect. We recruit against them. We see them at local high school games when we're out recruiting during the fall. There's no getting around it. It's just as much a rivalry for the coaches as it is for the players. Got a lot of respect what they've done right now based on last year. And this year they're defending conference champs. And until somebody knocks them off, they're still the champions. So here's our chance to take a swing at the title and see what we can do. But a lot of respect for that program. They do things the right way. I think Coach, they got really good schemes. They have good players. He does a great job with consistency and keeping guys on board and developing players. And so, yeah, a lot of respect for the program. And I think, as far as the rivalry and those kind of things, like Sam said, that's a lot of fun. It's college football in general, but there's no animosity as far as, disrespect or anything like that. I would think both of our teams will be classy and play hard, and that's what I would expect. And I think that's what you'll get from these two institutions. And it's what you want, man. We want a couple weeks ago it was State U, right? And now it's our turn. It's USF and Auggie, and man, what a great opportunity for our kids and our fans and just the city of Sioux Falls. And yeah, pretty cool. I think you're muted.
I am. Yes, thank you.
Come on, Chad. It's Auggie week. You got to bring your best.
Augustana is scoring 29 points per game. They average 150 yards per game on the ground, 230 through the air. Their defensively have only allowed 15 points per game, and they have 24 sacks on the season. I think their defense is kind of their strength. They've really kind of kept them in a lot of those games, and then the offense does their thing. Jared Epperson, the guy's been there since the 80s, it seems like. I mean, he's been around for a while. He's having a great season for him. 113 carries, 717 yards, 6.3 per carry, 8 touchdowns on the season, rushing. And then quarterback number 11, Gunnar Hensley, you'll see him on Saturday. He has, a pretty decent completion percentage, almost 70% of his passes completed. And then over 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. His two biggest receivers or most catch receivers are number 6, Jack Fisher, and number 1, Isaiah Huber. And then defensively, like I said, they've got some studs out there on the field. So, how do the Cougars kind of hope to stop those guys this weekend, Coach?
Well, they do. They have a really good offense and defense. The quarterback is a kid that I believe they had a quarterback competition during fall camp, and another young man won the job, and then there was an injury involved, and then kind of Gunnar took over from there. And he's a dual threat guy. He does a nice job with some zone read stuff. He'll pull it and run it, so he's a threat running the football. Their receivers are extremely capable. They block really well downfield. And the running back, I think, I'm not sure who's been involved in political campaigning longer, Trump or Epperson. They've both been there a long time. That was my shot at an election season joke. But, he's been there forever. He had an unfortunate injury, and fortunately for him, he was able to come back with a medical red shirt type of thing. So really dynamic playmaker. He's explosive. He's probably the most complete running back that we'll see all year. Their offensive line is big. They've got big tight ends. They do a nice job of spreading you out with 4 and 5 wides, and they'll get into 2 tight end sets. Quarterback can run the ball. Defensively, a lot of similarities between us and them defensively with 4 down front. I think Peyton Buckley is probably one of the more dynamic playmakers in the entire league, if not the country. He's a very special player for them at safety. Their corners are really solid, too. Those guys I'm familiar with both those guys. Recruited one of them when I was at Mankato, and he was out of Nebraska, and I was recruiting Nebraska, so I know him. Linebacker-wise, it seems like those guys have been there forever as well. They're big and physical at safety, and they rotate guys up front similar to what we do. So a lot of similarities. I think it's going to come down to what it always comes down to, right? Turnovers, third down conversions, and what people do in the red zone, settling for field goals or getting touchdowns. And then ultimately, turnovers are going to be the key, like always. And offensively for us, we've got to do a great job of establishing the run game. We've got to be able to hit guys when they're open. We got to make plays in space. And then defensively, we got to control the big plays, make them earn everything, and then hopefully be solid in special teams. And so, yeah, I think if you look at the stats, there's a lot of similarities. We're kind of right neck and neck with them in most stats after 9 weeks. And, obviously they've got they had a big game against South Dakota State. That was impressive. They played them really tough. We played a non-scholarship FCS team, so people probably say, well, they were non-scholarship and not as big a win or what they did. And so, you can get all that kind of stuff. I think we've only got 6 common opponents, which is a little bit unique out of the 9 games. So you can take what you want from that. But at the end of the day, we're going to kick off at 1 o'clock, and we're going to find out after 60 minutes of football who the better team is, and we'll live with the results. I'm sure they will, and we'll go on from there with 1 more game left in the season. So, we're down to less than 2 weeks, 2 games, conference title, playoffs, all that stuff still in play. So it's a great place to be in early November, and we'll see where we stand at 4 or 5 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll be holding the key to the city.
Well, I talked to the kids about this already. You watch these rivalry games, whether I think it's Minnesota going after the pig, and they play Wisconsin for the axe and all that kind of stuff. And, the Dakota Marker game, I watched that game, and the guys run across the field. I mean, that you just don't get that every week. And for our players, the ability to maybe take part in that would be pretty special. And they did it to us last year. We had to watch them on our field do it to us. So there's incentive there. And make no mistake about it, man, they're probably, that's probably going to be a priority after the game for whoever wins it. Handshakes aside, it's about that trophy and what it represents. And you want to be the champion in your city, you want to be the champion in your league, and then you want to be the champion in your region, and you want to be the best team in the country. So this is one of those things on those stair step to what you want to do to be a dominant program. And we look forward to getting after it on Saturday.
And shout out Logan Dykstra in this one for getting the key that year. But
listening live from Denmark.
Yeah. Sam's got a couple photos on here with his mustache and the key, and it's always great seeing those guys, and telling the stories about that. And those are the things that these guys are going to remember for the rest of their life. So one of those crazy things. All right. Any final words from either of you two about the key to the city matchup?
No, I just really appreciate you guys all season long, but especially this week. I know that it's time intensive, and to get all those guys to give their insight was pretty special. And I'm sure our guys, I'm going to encourage them to watch this just so they can get a better handle on the rivalry and what it means. And I think anytime you're relatively new to this rivalry, you can learn a lot from listening to former players and coaches. And it's certainly something that I appreciate you putting this together, and looking forward to a great game on Saturday.
All right. Well, we are too. Let's go ahead and wrap up by mentioning the Sioux Football Legacy Association. The CFLA's mission is to bring alumni, family, friends, and supporters together to help equip the USF football program with the resources necessary to continue its winning legacy. For more information, you can visit www.coulegacy.com or click on the QR code on the screen if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Special thanks this week, Tom Frederick, Tim Hyatt, Matt Witwicky, USF Athletic Department, but also Eric Anderson, Braden Wieking, John Tidwell, Josh Angulo, Brady Rose, Joe Rodino, Tucker Stout, Brody Grantham, Parker Gregston, Jackson Wright, and Cody Jantzen for all of their insights into the USF Auggie rivalry. For Sam Dooyema and Coach Jim Glogowski, I'm Chad Birger. Until next time, go Cougars.